What if the world's most dangerous regimes were hiding billions in oil, not in vaults, but right on the open ocean, using nothing more than a digital illusion?
Okay, let's dive into the urgent context here, because this is happening right now. We just saw some really aggressive U.S. action.
You're talking about the seizure of the oil tanker skipper.
Exactly, off Venezuela's coast.
Yeah,
I mean, this ship was already sanctioned for moving Iranian oil.
and they caught it red-handed.
Completely. Loading, what was it, 1.85 million barrels of Venezuelan crude?
Yeah.
But here's the crazy part, the critical detail.
The digital trick.
Yes, it was broadcasting a totally false location hundreds of miles away, just pretending to be somewhere else entirely to fuel these hostile governments.
And the seizure, it's more than just, a win for sanctions. It's a necessary response to this huge escalating security challenge.
The challenge being this digital maritime deception.
AI spoofing. And the scale of this problem it's just terrifying. If you look at the raw source data, the numbers are startling.
Okay, lay it on us. Spoofing incidents increased by over 2,400% between 2023 and 2024.
Wait, 2,400%. So we went from what, maybe 60 isolated incidents?
To more than 1,500 in a single year.
Wow. That's not a technical glitch. That's an industrial scale operation.
It is. This is organized digital warfare at sea. And it's aimed squarely at undermining U.S. goals, making sure adversaries like Iran, Russia, and Venezuela keep generating billions.
Outside the global financial system.
Exactly.
So our mission in this deep dive is clear. We're going to use the source material to reveal who's behind this, how they're using these digital masks to evade sanctions, and why this shift is now a critical national security risk. To really get the deception, we have to start with the basics. Every major ship has this system, the Automatic Identification System, or AIS.
Right. Think of it as a mandatory maritime GPS. It broadcasts identity, location, speed, all for safety and transparency.
But why is it so easy to lie? I mean, that seems like a massive flaw.
Because the system is fundamentally insecure. It was designed decades ago, mainly for collision avoidance, not for law enforcement. The signal is unencrypted.
So it's an easy target.
A very easy target. And bad actors absolutely know this.
Now, in the past, a rogue ship would just turn its AIS off, right? Just go dark.
That was the classic move, yeah.
So why this massive pivot to spoofing, to broadcasting a lie, instead of just going silent?
Because going dark is now the biggest red flag you can possibly raise. Regulators, insurers. They all know where the dark spots are, and they just assume illicit activity is happening there.
So enforcement got better, and the criminals had to adapt.
They were forced to. They had to adopt these sophisticated digital masks. They have broadcast data to seem legitimate, but it has to be fake data to hide what they're really doing.
It's like criminal brilliance. I mean, they're not just picking random coordinates, are they? The sources say there are very specific patterns they use to fool the algorithms.
Oh, absolutely. They're trying to mimic benign activity. And the most common pattern, it accounts for over 70% of all spoofing events, is the stationary dense grid.
A dense grid? What does that actually look like on a map?
Well, imagine the ship is actually moving miles offshore to pick up sanctioned crude.
Okay.
But its AI signal is just pinging, repeatedly transmitting hundreds of identical coordinates in a really tight, small cluster. It reports its speed as 0 knots.
So to any analyst, it just looks like it's anchored, doing nothing.
Exactly. While a satellite picture would show it's actually sailing and loading oil, they use sheer repetition to create a false sense of stability.
That makes sense. They want to hide the movement. What else are they doing?
Next up, you have what are called stationary circular patterns.
So not a dot, but a loop.
A perfect, symmetric, artificial loop. These patterns are geometrically perfect, which is, physically impossible for a real ship in the water. The goal is the same, though. Hide the vessel's true behavior.
Make it look like a GPS glitch instead of a crime.
Precisely. But the most insidious one, because it's the hardest to detect, is the retransmission of historical voyages.
Ghost voyages? That sounds advanced.
It is. They just replay a past legitimate route, maybe one from 6 months ago. The track looks real, plausible.
So the ship is in the Gulf of Oman, but its AIS says it's off the coast of Italy, following a route it sailed last year.
You've got it. The only anomaly is that the timing is wrong and the purpose is definitely wrong. It takes real skill to pull that off.
Let's connect this tech problem back to policy. Why the sudden, dramatic 2,400% jump in 2024? The source material makes a clear link to sanctions.
That is the key driver. when the US, the EU, and the UK really toughened sanctions enforcement in late 2023 and early 2024.
The adversaries just innovated their way around it.
They had to. This enforcement wave is what created the need for the shadow fleet to operate at this massive scale.
Okay, let's pivot to the perpetrators. You call them the shadow fleet. I think we need to grasp the scale here. Are we talking like dozens of ships?
Not even close. This is an industrial operation. The shadow fleet consists of roughly 1,300 tankers globally.
1,300. And these are older, poorly maintained ships, right?
Typically, yes.
Yeah.
They're near the end of their service life, operating totally outside traditional safety regulations. Their whole purpose is to move sanctioned oil from Iran, Russia, and Venezuela.
That number, 1,300 ships, that just screams environmental and human safety risk to me.
Absolutely. The environmental risk alone is staggering. When these vessels do these high-risk maneuvers like ship-to-ship transfers, they are courting disaster.
And they have zero incentive to follow safety rules because they're already outlaws.
Not at all.
And what's the financial takeaway for the regimes they're serving?
It's billions. It's their lifeline. I mean, Iran's regime relies on this cash to fund its nuclear program and its terror proxies like Hezbollah.
So by spoofing, they keep the revenue flowing, directly undermining U.S. foreign policy.
And this brings us back to why the digital mask is so critical. Sanctions now target the whole ecosystem: banks, insurers, port operators. So a vessel must appear compliant.
Right. OFAC, the sanctions office, now says detecting this kind of spoofing is a core compliance expectation.
Exactly. So if an insurer ignores the signs, they face penalties. The shadow fleet wears this digital camouflage to get insurance, which they need for port access, even if the insurance itself is fraudulent.
Without spoofing, the whole thing grinds to a halt.
It stops dead in the water.
Okay, so we have the actors in the method. Let's trace the money and the oil. The source material details this coordinated axis of evasion led by China, Iran, and Russia. How does that partnership work?
Well, China is the indispensable economic engine here. They purchase the vast majority, we're talking an estimated 90% of Iran's oil exports. And they're also a huge buyer of discounted Russian crude.
And it benefits them hugely. I saw one source reported Beijing saved something like $10 billion in 2023 alone.
A staggering $10 billion, yes, just by buying the sanctioned oil.
But moving that kind of money usually sets off all sorts of alarms in the U.S. dollar system. How do they get around that?
They cut it out entirely. All the transactions are increasingly settled in the Chinese renminbi.
The RMB, so it stays out of sight of U.S. banks.
Exactly. And the oil doesn't even go to China's big state-owned companies, which have international exposure.
It goes to the smaller, independent Chinese refineries. The teapots.
The teapots are the perfect conduit. They're smaller, provincial, and have less to fear from U.S. sanctions. And the payments are often processed through just one or two small, specialized Chinese banks, like the Bank of Kunlun.
So it's a carefully engineered shadow banking system.
Designed purely for evasion. It shields China's major international banks from any risk.
That financial isolation is key. Let's talk about the physical side. They still have to physically break the chain of custody of the oil itself.
And that's done through these really dangerous ship-to-ship, or STS, transfers in international waters.
Where does this mostly happen?
They use specific high-risk zones. The Rio Archipelago off Malaysia is a big one. The sources actually call it Dark Fleet Parking Central.
Parking Central?
Yeah, it's a busy junction where the shadow fleet can just loiter, turn off their lights, and do these risky transfers at night.
And it's not just one transfer, is it?
No, a single sanctioned shipment might undergo 3 to 5 successive transfers at sea. They mix the crude with other oil to dilute its chemical signature and create maximum confusion.
And this is paired with constant identity fraud, changing names, using false flags.
Just like the skipper falsely flying the Guyana flag. They effectively become a stateless vessel, which makes them incredibly difficult to intercept under international law.
They're creating ambiguity to avoid accountability.
It's a network built to exploit every single loophole. But, as the skipper seizure proved, it's not unbreakable.
Right. The good news, the U.S. is hitting back, and that seizure is proof this can be beaten. The tanker claimed it was hundreds of miles away, but satellite imagery confirmed it with perfect clarity.
It was sitting right at Venezuela's Jose oil terminal, loading crude.
And that reinforces the key message for you, the listener. Ignorance is not a defense anymore.
Not at all. We have to fight digital deception with a multi-layered digital truth.
So if the deception is this good, what specific countermeasures are actually working? How do you beat a ghost ship?
It's all about data fusion. You have to combine the raw, unprocessed AIS data with high-resolution satellite imagery,
That combination boosts detection precision? How much?
like up to fourfold. A ship can lie about its GPS, but it can't lie to a satellite camera looking right down on it.
And then the heavy lifting is done by algorithms.
Sophisticated ones, yeah. They run what's called kinematic analysis. It just checks the physics. Is the ship's reported speed and heading even possible?
Or does it look like a video game character glitching across the map?
Pretty much. And one of the most effective tools is something called ground station localization.
It sounds like catching a lie based on who heard it.
That's a perfect way to put it. The sources cite this great example of a ship spoofing near Brazil, but its signal was being kicked up by a ground station 2,000 nautical miles away in the Caribbean.
That's physically impossible.
Utterly impossible. That kind of inconsistency immediately exposes the lie.
And finally, there's still a place for human intelligence, right? For
Well,
physical forensic.
Absolutely. You have to scrutinize the fraudulent shipping documents. And most importantly, we have to rely on chemical forensics. Testing cargo samples can reveal signatures unique to sanctioned oil fields.
Proving oil disguised as Iraqi is scientifically Iranian.
It's an all-encompassing counterattack. It has to be.
So we've seen how rogue actors exploit this deeply insecure technology, AIS spoofing, to generate billions for hostile regimes. This isn't just smuggling, it's coordinated geopolitical deception that funds terror and props up authoritarianism.
The Shadow Fleet is a clear and present danger to international trade and to global safety. And the U.S. government now views detecting this as a core compliance expectation for anyone in this space.
So here's a final thought for you to chew on. If hostile nations can so easily fabricate entire voyages and identities on the open sea, what other unencrypted digital platforms that our critical infrastructure relies on every day, from logistics to air traffic control, could be just as vulnerable to this kind of strategic deception? Should governments start treating digital maritime security with the same urgency as military hardware?